guys, it's Adrian. I want to talk a little bit about lower abs, especially in relation to the ladies. Something you find as ladies get older, they tend to complain of a pooch. Okay? So below the belly button towards the pubic bone. And the only thing that's really there musculature-wise is the lower portion of the abs, or rectus abdominis. So trying to work that area seems to be this common thing, like, oh, I want to work my lower abs so that pooch goes away or firms up. And it's like, okay, that makes sense, right? You can take the abs, you can firm them up and tighten them up. You still have to address the body fat over top of that, so that's completely a dietary issue, it's an exercise issue, but from the perspective of taking the lower abs and being able to engage them, that actually becomes a huge problem. Now, just to talk a little anatomy, rectus abdominis, which is your six-pack muscle, connects to your ribs and connects to your pubic bone, okay? And its entire job, it runs vertical, kind of like the T in here, and it runs vertical. The entire job of the rectus abdominis is pretty much to take these 2 points and put them towards each other, or flex the spine, okay? Sort of like a crunch, a sit-up, that kind of stuff. It's meant to curl the spine. So, being that it's one muscle, okay, and don't let the sixth part of it confuse you, I can't necessarily work only my lower abs, just like I can't only work my upper abs. But some ab core exercises, you're going to be able to feel a lot more in the lower region or the upper region. So when people do crunches and they're laying down and they're crunching away, for the most part, they really only ever feel their upper abs, okay? So to get the lower to fire is actually, like I said, it's quite tricky, and I find in younger women, and then also too, for those like Elijah we're going to demonstrate with, if we have that lordosis, okay, and a lot of us fitness people do, she's going to be competing in a figure competition soon, that whole lordosis issue, you have to imagine if I take my spine and my stomach is like this and I curl my spine, it's pushing my stomach out. It's not that I have fat that I can grab there, okay, but I am making it more poochy. So the first thing I would say is you need to fix the alignment of your spine, or how it curves, and not curve it quite so much if you have that lordotic posture. So the other thing about that too is if I'm going to be taking an exercise, okay, this rectus abdominis and closing it and crunching it, that has to deal with my spine flexing. So I'm a huge proponent for self-massage release. I think it's important to do before you do muscle work. So I'm going to find a way to sneak self-massage release in there by working the backside of the muscles that are going to help me flex. If my spinal column muscles, okay, the ones that run next to the spine that run vertical, if they're really stiff and tight, you know it because when you go to bend over, it feels really tight in your back, okay, or you go to put your shoe on and you can't. If those muscles are tight, forget trying to even address your lower abs. You can't, because you can't flex and you're already tight in your back. So let's address, again, the opposite side of the body first, and then let's come back to how to actually address what we're trying to. So I'm going to take 2 tennis balls. They're taped up with packing tape. I've got a whole self-massage release series that talks about how to do that and everything else. The crevice between the 2 balls is where my spine is going to go. So these 2 balls, they just act like somebody massaging with their thumbs up and beside the muscles of my spine. So I'm actually going to have Elijah do that. She's going to be working out later anyway. So where she wants to start is from. Where she's going to start. Now you're going to do this laying on the ground, but basically she's going to go from here up her spine, okay? Especially between the shoulder blade, kind of bra strap-ish area for women, because you always get knots in there. And then just at the base of the neck. You don't really need to go into the neck with that. So she's just going to lay on the ground and get her massage on. So it's okay to do this in the lower back. I would just say make sure that you're never, ever, ever actually on the spine. It's the muscles between the spine. Now, she's got her feet flat on the ground. She can either shift back and forth, which is what most people do, or she could put her hips down or butt down and do a little crunching to put more really big pressure into it if you want to massage it that hard. Okay, now from there she's going to move it up her back or move herself down, either or. And same thing, she's going to do that 2-inch shuffle. So she's covering maybe the space of 2-3 vertebrae at most. And again, you're thinking, okay, what does this have to do with lower abs? Well, I'm going to break up that tension that might be on the other side of the lower abs, so that is actually going to be able to help me bend my spine better and actually get to the point where I can bend my spine, so I might be able to have a chance to feel my lower abs. So you'll see she's had some experience on it where she's like, okay, I know that that area is tense. I'm going to crunch and roll around and dig into it a little bit to get it to loosen up. So it gets to that mid-back, mid-shoulder blade area, and that's pretty not fun. Yeah. Women, even guys too, we have so much tension in our mid-shoulder blades. And a lot of it can do with just like posture, being tired, stuff like that. There's an overstretching of the muscles between the shoulder blades, like rhomboids, mid-traps. So she's just trying to break up that tension so that when she goes to do things like crunching or sit-ups, that she's actually going to feel it. Okay, so the other thing is when she gets to this kind of area, notice she's got her arms up. She can either cross across her chest. So try that like shoulder. Okay, what this does is it pulls the shoulder blade off the rib cage. Okay, so that she can actually expose those muscles and dig at it with the tennis balls. Okay.
My tennis balls are moving.
That's fine. Okay, so she's going to go up his spine. How does that feel?
Good.
It pretty much immediately feels better, right? Whenever my back is stiff and achy, I'm like, where's my 2 tennis balls? So, step 1. Step 2 is thinking about, okay, now I've addressed the ability of my spine to be able to move around. It feels pretty good, it's looser. But what about the hip flexors, or the hip flexing group, okay? You've got some spinal stabilizers like psoas, you've got some hip flexors like iliacus and rectus femoris, all this stuff in here, okay? So a little bit lower than the lower abs. If that stuff is really strong, say your hip flexors are really strong, your rectus femoris is really strong, people will do lower ab work and they're like my quads, I feel this in my quads, okay? So right in here. And they can't ever feel it down here. It's because all those muscles are just too wound up. So again, I have this hip flexing series as far as self-myofascial release goes. I have its own video, so you can go look at that. We'll do it a little bit more in detail. But for sake of argument, what I want to do is put this in the, not on the pubic bone, just slightly off of it, and not all the way out to the pocket or TFL area. So just in here. And I'm going to demonstrate by just rolling around. And you're looking for an area that's tense. You'll know when you find it because it's generally not fun, okay? Now, okay, so you find a trigger point. It's tender. You can use a basketball, a soccer ball, it doesn't matter as long as it's a pretty firm ball. And then you're gonna come down on that same side and breathe. Don't keep rolling around, just breathe. Okay, so I'm gonna get Elijah to do that. You need really wide legs, and she needs her toes to point out to expose that area. If she's got her toes pointed in, she's gonna be using her quad to block that area, so really wide. You'll notice that her toe is pointed out, so she can get into the underside of that. So that's in the groinish area. Found a tender spot?
Yeah.
Okay, is it really tender or how?
Let's say it's 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. If that screams at you, I'll say first and foremost, do not spend any serious amount of time in that area if it's really bad, okay? Some people get on this the first time, they're like, holy wow, why is that so tender? It's not supposed to be, you're not supposed to have that much tension. So when you think it's loosened up or let go a little bit, then she's going to switch to the other side of the hip. And what this is going to let her do is in all reality, most lower ab based exercises are bringing the feet towards the chest. If I'm trying to work the upper abdominals, it means I need to take my head down, right? Just like if I want to work the lower, I want to bring the lower up. Okay? It's just a general way of trying to emphasize lower over upper. So, feels good, bad, ugly?
Feels good.
Okay, feels good after, it's not good during. It's definitely not good during. Okay, so we've addressed 2 major things. We've addressed the spine being able to move, which you feel way more loose, right? And we've addressed any hip tension that might take over or actually even limit her ability to get her legs to fire in that kind of way that we want her to. So the next thing is more of a physiotherapy movement. I had a back injury about a year ago and I started getting back spasms. This was something that a physiotherapist showed me. The first time I did it, I couldn't get my feet off the ground. My lower abs, like I could do knee raises to get my feet up to my hands. I could do toe throughs on gym rings. Like it didn't matter. I thought my abs were strong, but it was my hip flexors and my upper portion of my abs and all that stuff that was taking over because my lower abs didn't know what the hell they were doing. So there's a few different ways to do this. You are going to need a piece of equipment. Okay, you can get a 36-inch roller. This is a full roller. Okay, I would always suggest getting EVA foam. I wouldn't get regular foam because it breaks down too easy. You're going to use this for other stuff anyway. I'm going to be doing a video soon on adrenal reset and posture reset. I prefer for this exercise a half roll. Okay. Now the difference between the colors, white is the softest, you'll burn through it in no time. I think blue is an okay place to start, but again, it's pretty, I feel that it's pretty squishy. Okay. And then black is where I would actually go to. The black one, try to squish a black one. There's not much give, right? So the black one is not going to compress or wear down over time. So you can get these at any real place. I actually got the black one, the firm one from Fitter First, which is in Calgary. So I'm going to take this one. Now what we're going to do is I'm just going to have Elijah just finish my work. I'm going to have her lay tailbone and head supported. So her spine is going to run up the length of this roller. She's going to put her feet flat on the ground. Okay. So usually when you just lay somebody down on the roller, it's a good idea just to give them a second to let their spine relax and chill out before we start messing around with it, okay? So something to notice, and if you can see it, you might have to come down. There's this natural curvature in her back, okay? Now that's good from a posture reset point of view, but that's what we're going to be working with, and it's very important that you pay attention to that curvature in the back, okay? So what I'm going to be doing as far as this drill goes is I want her to take that area and get rid of it. So she's trying to crush her lower back or push her lower back or flatten her lower back against the roller. So right now, there's no crevice. Now, first position, there's 4 progressions to this exercise. She has her elbows on the ground, or she could even put her hands on the ground for balance. Because again, the roller's pretty tippy, yeah? Okay. So just her flattening, so let go. Okay. So notice how her pelvis curls, and again, that curve comes back. When she pushes down, she was taking this area, so relax it, and opening it, and then push down and closing it. So she's already activating her lower abs. Her whole abs, again, just lower function. Now what I want her to try to do, without losing the pressing into the lower back, she's going to try to lift this leg really slow off the ground. She can push into the ground as much as she wants with her hands. I want her to bring her knee up to here without losing the push of her lower back into the roller, and that's super, super important. Then back down. Very slow between the transition of feet. Back down. Okay. So just looking at that, I know that her left side is definitely weaker. So I'm going to go right side again. Okay. And just always watching this curve that she's pushing down. Now, if you can't tell if you're losing the curve or the pressure, try showing it with your hands underneath. So she's going to take her own hands under her own lower back. She's going to try to crush her fingers. She can still use the elbows for balance. So crush your fingers. Let's try that left again. And then slow. Okay, switch. Okay, so where do you feel this?
Lower.
Right, so
right where the button.
okay, so belly button-ish area. Now when we're talking lower abs, we're talking below the rib cage down to the pubic bone. We're not talking the ones that the top 4 pack that are really on the ribbish area. We're talking belly button or lower. Okay, so try that again. So she had to flatten her back, and she's gonna go with the knee. It's getting easier though, right? As you go along, you know that it's getting easier. Let's switch. Okay. So that's the first progression. Now, just relax. The hardest thing about this drill, even just from a trainer perspective and knowing what I'm doing with it, is not cheating yourself. It is too easy just to lift one foot like you're Highland dancing and not realize that you're not activating, you're not pushing down. So try the fingers on the lower back. And what that'll do is it'll let you feel if, especially when the leg is coming down, if you go down too fast, whether you're losing that pressure and you're gaining too much curve in the lower back, because again, you want to keep it flat to the roller. So that's the first progression. Now that's actually where Elijah's at, because she hasn't done this a lot. Now I want her hands to go across her chest. Now what immediately happens is she has to deal with the wobble factor of the half roller. So again, she's going to flatten her lower back, she's going to push that in as hard as she can, so she's shortened that rectus abdominis. Now she's going to try the hard leg, that left leg. Just slow enough, she doesn't fall off, right? And I tell you, this is the hardest thing to do. So dig in, slow enough that you're not going to fall. Just try the left one. So you see the difference, like she has the confidence and it comes up really well. Her back's really flat. She goes to try this side. It's kind of all over the place. So there's a weakness, and there's a weakness on one side, or a neural ability to get the core and ab and oblique and all those spinal stabilizers to flex on that one side. Okay, so hop up. So that's progression 1 and progression 2. Now, there's, like I said, there's 4 progressions. So, being that she can't do this second one on her weak side, there's no point in getting her to demonstrate the other 2. Now, these, not to say these aren't tough for me either. So, again, I'm taking my stomach and that curvature in my back, which I always have a huge curve in my back. I'm going to flatten it first. So I've got the flattest stomach, all that pressure in my lower back. First progression is my elbows. I'm going to really slow, especially the last inch. It's too easy just to let go. And me letting go is me gaining curvature in my spine. So flatten my spine. And it's always good, even if you know you can do 4th progression, to do 4 sets where you do your first one, first progression, second one, second progression, third one, third progression, and 4th one, last one. Okay? Now, second progression was here. My right side is my weaker one. It's definitely tough for me to do. Okay, and right now my whole abs and obliques are screaming at me. Again, I'm trying to be true to myself in whether or not my back is lifting when I come down. Third progression, I would actually grab a stick or a broomstick, something like that. You could just put your arms up or grab a towel if it work too. Because I'm further away from my center of gravity. This isn't much of a change from your hands being on yourself, but I definitely feel it. Okay. 4th progression. And I don't know if there's necessarily a need to go to 4th progression, unless you have a really big back issue where lower ab strength was a big negative, and that's what it was when I was injured. Is a multi-plane movement. If this leg is up and down my body, I'm going to add this type of motion instead. So this is moving in a horizontal fashion away from my body, where this is a vertical up and down. So I'm going to flatten my lower back and take my little baby dumbbells. Now this gets really tough. So tough I might not be able to do it. I'm trying to get a timing where I don't lose. That's my strong side. That's definitely my weak side. So now, that's all in these muscles down here. Okay, my obliques trying to stop me from falling off, like my abs almost feel like they're cramping, and I did a whole of 10 reps. So that's to teach your lower abs how to fire. To work your lower abs, again, if the idea is, and this is very traditional, and this makes a lot of common sense, if I'm going to crunch, my head, I'm still closing this muscle. When I'm using my head to close this muscle, like my head going towards my feet, I'm going to feel more in the upper abs, which should by nature mean that if I bring my knees up, okay, leg raise, hip thrust, anything, I should feel my lower abs. But again, most people feel their hips. So I've addressed how to get the abs to fire. Let's talk about an actual exercise to work the lower abs. And let's talk about how to make this too easy and too hard. So I'm going to get Elijah lay face up on the mat. It's okay, right here. Okay, hardest progression on this is just grabbing a medicine ball and you're using a weight or a ball or something like that to actually pull onto, not to smack into her head. Now here's the thing, this is one of those things too where if you're not strict with yourself, if you're going to be like, oh yeah, no problem, I busted out 15 reps and I didn't feel my abs, trust me, you did it wrong. If she just puts her legs up like this, okay, all she did, okay, this area, just watch this area open up. That area did not shrink whatsoever. It may have engaged, but it didn't close. So her 6-pack muscle, her rectus abdominis, did not close, which means her lower abs really, they're firing just to hold the legs up a little bit. But most of that came from her hip flexor. So do it again. Her hips, that's what closed. And that's why hip flexors take over too much, or rectus femoris takes over too much when doing lower ab exercises. What you're going to see when somebody does this wrong is they use momentum to come up So let's get rid of momentum. These hips cannot be closed more than they possibly are right now. She's going to start in that cannonball position. Okay? She's going to try to use the ball, and what I want her to do, if she can do it, is curl her knees closer to her nose. Okay? And to stay there. Now, you're going to see the biggest mistake, again, people open to build up momentum, so I'm going to get rid of any momentum she could possibly have. She's going to try to curl up. And you'll notice she doesn't get very far off the ground. Okay, try a couple more like that. Now, how hard is that?
Very hard.
Okay. This is like 3 abs, and where do you feel it?
Lower abs.
Lower abs. Okay, so relax. But what I would say is, because she can only get so far off the ground, it's not enough. It's great, like, you know, it's not like it's not hard, but it's almost too hard. The smaller the weight to hold on to, the harder this exercise is. So I'm going to give her a little bit more weight. This is a 50 pound. It also doesn't roll. She can grab onto it and cling onto it. And slide up more if you need to. That gives her something heavier to pull onto. So again, we're going cannonball. We're trying to get rid of the hip ability to bring momentum into this. She's going to try to curl as much into a ball, like knees towards the nose. You'll notice she immediately gets a lot higher. Slow on the way. Now control. Control is a big thing when it comes to lower abs. So cannonball, curl, and she's just keeping that curl the whole time, especially when she gets down. Okay, back up. Hard exhale as she comes up, and then controlling her down. Hard exhale as she comes up, comes down. Now the thing about strength in abs, especially if you're going to work them, don't do 50 reps or something. You need to find an exercise, or you're not going to get 50 of these. There's no way. Okay, try a couple more. She has to pull for dear life. So you're going to feel your lats, you're going to feel your bicep, you're going to feel your grip, you're going to feel all the muscles that really tie into that nice bikini line anyway. One more. Okay, so the dumbbell definitely helps, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now say that wasn't enough either, and you really need something to grab onto, or you're home and you don't have a dumbbell, you don't have a medicine ball. Grab your couch. Okay? Grab underneath your couch or so, a coffee table, something you can actually really cling onto that isn't going anywhere. Now again, same idea. And she's going to curl as hard as she can, hard breath out. You see that was easier for her. But there's control. She never opens the knees, ever. Good. Okay, try 3 or 4 more. That hard breathing on the way out. Hard exhaling will always close or give room for the rectus abdominis, that 6-pack muscle, to actually flex better. So you don't want to hold your breath. One more. And it's getting tough, right? Even though she that's perfect. Okay, so in just actually laying down, like where in the stomach do you feel that?
All lower.
Okay, so from belly button down towards the pubic. So that's your lower abs, is belly button towards the pubic bone, because it attaches to the pubic bone. Okay, and sit up. If she can. So again, when you're working the abs, it comes down to being able to find something hard enough for them to work there. The abs are no different than a bicep muscle. Okay, they may have a little bit more endurance quality to them, but they also have a strength quality to them. So first progression, 2 tennis balls on the back. You just dig, massage. There's a whole video on that, or go back. The medicine ball and the hip flexor, because you got to be able to open up that hip flexor and make room for some of the pressure that the lower abs are trying to make them get. You're on the half roller. Again, I suggest you go buy one of the black ones. They'll last you longer. They're maybe $25. You go fitter1.com. You can find one at Fitter First. Okay, and then you're going to be doing that lower ab exercise. Now, as far as reps and sets go, I would say you need to do 2 sets, 2 to 3 sets of 15 reps per leg. So raising one knee, raising the other leg when you're on the half roller. This one, if you're really trying to work your lower abs, I'd say no more than 3 sets of, I don't know, 15 if you can possibly even do it. If you can do 15 reps of this one, you need to do it without or with less support. So either take your hands off the rail and use a dumbbell, take your hands off the dumbbell and use a medicine ball. I don't even have the strength to do it, but I've seen people do it with just their arms over their head where they're not holding on to anything at all. Okay, I don't have the strength to show it, so I'm not going to demonstrate it. But anyway, that's lower abs. It's how you get them to fire. It's how you get them to work. Okay, any questions, let us know. Thanks.